I'm Kaya Herstad-Carney and welcome to this little session about vocals. So we are going to talk about warm-ups and exercising your voice and build some power and stamina and accuracy in your voice. And I've got two second-year vocalists with me. I'll let them introduce themselves and maybe talk a little bit more about what's important in warming up your voice.
Hi, my name is Tristan. I'm on the second year vocals, and I've also been doing the diploma the year before. It has been a great time so far at ACM. I've been doing so many things and learning loads about vocal technique, vocal performance, and how to move on stage, and it's been a great experience. Warm-ups are important to me because I think it's not only a physical thing to get ready for performance, but also like a mental thing. So to be actually like mentally ready for singing is something so important, because like when I first went on stage, I always had like struggles with like performing like in front of like many people, because it was just like a different feeling, and I was like sometimes getting nervous and like facing stage fright. And sort of like warm-ups kind of get me ready, and they also give me security. And therefore, I think they're like a very important thing to do before you go up on stage, or you just actually like start your day.
That's a great point. So by preparing your voice, you feel like this is something you know what you're doing. It's a routine thing. Yeah, really good point. And you?
Hi, my name's Jana. I'm studying my second year degree vocals after doing my diploma in Liverpool. I like warm-ups because I can rely on my voice when I go on stage. I know that when I've warmed up, I feel more confident, like Tristan said. And also as well, after having a few tutorials with the great tutors here, like I learned how to change words that I was struggling to sing, change the vowels, and even just thinking about using dopier vowels, like that I wouldn't have even thought of doing myself in practice, made it easier to sing when I actually came to do the performance. So it's just getting all that in your head and training your muscles. That's really good for me.
In your head and in your body. It's basically making sure that your body is prepared to doing the work that you want to do, getting the sounds that you want out of you, the sound that's either appropriate for the artistry that you've decided to approach, or also what the musical director or sometimes the assessment require. So, warm-ups are important for me because it means that the students get to keep on doing gigs, and they don't have to cancel or feel upset and about voice loss and all that kind of stuff, because you can kind of ride on your technique. And you'll have the chance to ask questions to both of these guys afterwards, and of course myself. So the main reason for this workshop is to give you guys something to work on before you're joining us here in September in regards to warming up your voices and exercising your voice. So the voice is complex and simple at the same time. You have three most important components, and some of you will have heard of this because any acoustic instruments have these three components. There's a power, a source, and a filter. And we're not going to go into the real itsy-gritty science of this. You got enough of that when you get here. We're not going to talk about, some of you might have heard of formants and harmonics and muscles and anatomy. We're going to talk about the really practical stuff. The difference between coming to a vocal coach versus just kind of singing by yourself is kind of the same with exercise. You could go to an exercise class and it will be one size fits for everyone, but if my goal was to lose weight and your goal was to bulk up, then essentially we wouldn't be doing the same exercises. So the same thing with the voice. We all have slightly different exercises to make our voice do the best, because essentially this is muscles and ligaments. So if in power, source, filter, acoustics, this was a real piano, it's not, it's a digital, but if I place my finger on here, my finger is kind of the power. The source would come by the piano key hitting the string, and then the filter will be the body of the instrument. For us as singers, the power comes from the lungs. Vocal folds, which is situated inside your Adam's apple, Eve's apple if you want, inside your voice box, and it vibrates at the pitch. And that pitch is then amplified, if you want, or it basically gains more resonance from the vocal tract. What that means is that from this area until it comes out, that changes the sound. Down there, it doesn't sound like much. It's just like a kind of, which has sold no records ever. So what we need to do is balance out this power, this source, so the airflow with the vocal fold vibration. And the best way of doing that is doing something called semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. Okay, I said I wasn't going to get too technical, but it's an important, very, very effective thing. It basically is the difference between making you hit all the notes that you want to hit in the volume and power and sound that you want to hit, and not. So that's pretty important. So essentially, there's different ways we can do this. One of them is by balancing out through these semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, and it's creating some resistance between the airflow and the vocal fold and before it comes out. So we're kind of bypassing the resonance bit, which is has different challenges to it, and we'll get to later on. One of them you might have done several of these if you've gone to singing lessons or seen other people doing the vocal exercises. One of them is basically by making your lip trill or lip roll. It goes like this. And yes, some of this is silly. I'll explain why. It goes like this. So we have to make sure that the two muscles, well, there's loads of muscles involved, but the two most important muscle groups, the ones that bring the vocal folds together, because if I try and sing and don't have my vocal folds together, it'll sound a bit like this. It's just breath. Again, not really great for doing fantastic performances. The vocal folds need to be together. So to know what the vocal folds together, you could do a little bit of a kind of uh-oh, which is like a glottal uh-oh. So if you all want to try that, do you want to experiment with me? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, uh-oh. And what happens then is the vocal folds come together before the air flows. You have the you hear a bit of that's a glottal onset. And then the opposite of that is if the air comes first and then the vocal folds come together. So you've got this thing coming on. So the air comes first and then the vocal folds come together. Horses for courses. The most balanced is when the two come together at the same time and you have a simultaneous onset, which is the kind of balanced onset. Onset is just the way you attack the note. It's just a slightly more technical way of saying it. So you got a all three can be useful in pop or CCM, which is the commercial music in general. Contemporary commercial music, CCM, you might have heard that expression. You might want to go R-E-S-P-C-T, so you got the vocal folds coming in first. Or you might want to go hoo, hoo, where you got the air coming through first. Or you might want to do the last one. So this balancing out means that you have the opportunity to do all of that at different levels of dynamic. Right, any questions about that, just ask us afterwards in the Q&A. So we're going to do making sure that both those muscles are working. And first we're going to just check that we have the muscles that brings our vocal folds together by going like, ooh, that's really good ice cream. So 1, 2, 3, Great. And then we're going to lift up the skin around the lips like this. So we're not pushing forward because that's just making it harder. We're just lifting up like this and going like you're doing a sigh. Also great entertainment with younger family members, but that's a different story. So now we're going to try and do that going up and down the register, up and down our range, without losing the connection and keeping the lips fluttering. So it goes like this. You can hear a little bit of, I haven't warmed up yet. So what we might want to do there is add a bit of a cry. So you got the So we're going to start and just go up and down, and everybody's different here. Remember, just with the personal trainer and the big gym class, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but you know your own voice and you can feel it. And you might want to kind of stretch out other things and make sure that your lungs are working and that you're not restraining anything else. So you might want to do a little bit of stretches before you even start this. So lift up and just up and down the register as you feel. You can do little slides up and down. If you feel a bit tense, you could start on top. You can start quieter or louder. But again, you wouldn't start a dance class by doing high kicks. You'd start with the stretches. It's the same with your voice. You want to start gradually, making sure you're not pushing yourself until you're completely warm. There's loads of other semi-occluded exercises or resistance exercises. You might have heard of the straw. Check it out. You can look at this really good video by one of the kind of main people behind vocology, which is the learning about how the voice works and voice sciences, called Ingo Tietze. You can check that out. He's got a video explaining how the straw works. So the straw, essentially, if you don't have one at home, I'm going to show you an alternative afterwards. But if you put your hand in front of you and just blow through the straw, feel free to join me on this one. So you just go, just the air first. Remember, airflow is one of the 3 components. So then you're going to just gradually add the note back in and just start somewhere comfortable. Doesn't matter whether you're on the same note as us, because everybody's different. I'm going to almost like if we have a car that doesn't quite start. So like, try and do that a few times. And then you could become a racing car and start going up and down like this. You get the drift. So yeah, start with being in the car that doesn't work. I'm going to keep you guys on the straw, but I'll do the alternative in case you don't have the straw back home. So we're going to do a and it's kind of using the lips and the teeth as your resistance. So you will shape your mouth as if you're going to say like, ooh, like you, ooh, I'm not sure about this. But then you put your teeth together as resistance. So you go, so you go, so we'll start as the car that's broken and then we suddenly turn into a racing car. It's a very exciting story. So go for it. And when you get up, you can just go back down again. So that creates some acoustic energy that's happening that basically makes you sing more bucks, kind of more bang for the bucks, more energy for less effort. And that's kind of what we wanted. We want effort, but we don't want tension. We want to make sure that you're engaged and you're engaging all these different components, as I said, which is your airflow and your vocal folds in the right kind of vibrations. They vibrate as the air comes up, and then the final bit is your vocal tract. We're going to do a few more of these on the straw or on the, this time around, just do kind of up and down. You might want to do a few scales. You might want to go. That's just a root 5th, root octave root, but don't worry about exactly what you do. You might just want to slide or go over your song. You could, while you're practicing your guitar bit, you can always just add a little bit of woo in there as well. So yeah, each to whatever you feel like your voice needs today. For some of you, it will help doing some cry kind of to bring the vocal folds together. Some of you, it might be, just make sure that you're not going to just and it's too tight. I said it'll be fun with the younger family members. So you could go on with this for another kind of 5-10 minutes. It's the most kind of effective way of warming up that power and the source of your vocal tract. So then we got another thing, and is how is this going to sound? Because you never go on stage and go, here's one I've prepared for you. So we do have to move on to something that is closer to singing. And what we do is that every consonant and every vowel helps the voice or hinders the voice depending on what you do currently. So some of them makes it more like chest voicey, and some of them might make it sound more like head voice, but we'll talk more about this when you get there. So essentially, vowels and consonant helps us regulate the airflow, and it helps us regulate what kind of tone and timbre, the sound of our voice that we want. The final bit there is where we have our larynx. So you could have your larynx really low and it makes a bigger space. So you boost these lower frequencies.
Or I can have my larynx really high and it boosts these higher frequencies, which again, just depends what sound you're looking for. You might not want to be looking for this sound. However, this kind of sound might not be too inappropriate for some sounds. So now we just want to make sure that the larynx is mobile, because the larynx is mobile, but that it don't just go up and down depending on the note we sing, because there are no high notes and low notes. It's only fast vibrations and slow vibrations. And the larynx position is only partly involved in actually making the sound. So what we're going to do is just go for a big stretch and go, oh. It might feel like a yawn, and you probably want to yawn after you've done it as well. So you guys ready? Just a big kind of over-the-top, dramatic, oh. Oh. Just wherever is comfortable in your range. And you can feel the larynx going up by going wee. So if you hold here, your larynx is, as I said, it's your Adam's apple. If you hold here and swallow, you'll feel the larynx come up and then settle back down again. And where it exactly settles and where it starts depends on your body. So don't worry too much where it is. Just be aware of it and then try again. So the little swallow. And then if you go duh, duh, and then wee, wee, you can feel these extreme positions. So as we do in the next one, we're going to start one with the lower position. We're going to go goo, 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 and we're going to do it on a arpeggio. So female and male voices aren't the same. I just went female and male, pardon. Female and male voices aren't the same. You probably knew that already, but that makes it a little bit hard to warm up together because we're not an octave apart either. Some of you might be singing together with somebody from the opposite sex might have noticed that it's a little bit hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to find somewhere in the between for this one. If I was doing a one-to-one session, we would find out exactly where your voice is, and later on we will be working a little bit more independently. But just so you're aware that we're about a fourth and a fifth away rather than an octave away. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, that's part of what we're teaching you. So it just means that we're not quite as far away that we're able to sing at the same time in the same key for all the notes. That's okay. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to be here. I think that should, where I am actually. So we're going to do that on an arpeggio, and we're going to do it on the goo, 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 goo. So I'm now playing your octave. This will be the female octave. So we're going to go goo, 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 goo. Goo, 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 goo. So you've gone for the lower octave, but that's fine. When you feel comfortable coming back up, just join me on this one. Goo, 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 goo. Goo, 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 goo. Really use your G there at the bottom. Goo, 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 goo. Good. Goo, 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 goo. Goo, 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 goo. Goo, 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 goo. Good. And then we're going to kind of do the opposite. So that was with the larynx a little bit lower. We're going to go nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay.
voice that sound really nasty. Like, you know when you're in the playground and you just like na 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 na. It's kind of like that. So we're gonna go for a nay 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 nay. Excellent. And now we're gonna try a bit more neutral. So what you might want to do is just shake it out a bit, like. And here I will start in a comfortable key for you, and then you're going to join when you feel like this is. There's not so much point in practicing lower than what you can sing, because we can actually practice to learn how to sing higher, but to learn how to sing lower only depends on how much your vocal fold, almost like a guitar string, how much you can maintain tension as you go really low. So there's a point, if you've ever tried to pluck a guitar string, where it just doesn't vibrate enough to create a tone. There's a point when you go, that you can't get any energy down there, so attractive sound. So you might want to try and start practice, which is you can make the lowest bit of your voice sound more usable, but you can't really build your voice too far down, basically. So I'm going to start with yourself. What do you feel is the best kind of exercise for you? You've been doing quite a few tutorials.
It's a good question. Like, I think it depends, like what my voice is doing on the day. So like it's always like on, like if it's feeling heavy or if I'm feeling too light, if I need a bit more consonants or like less airflow, more airflow. It depends. I actually quite like woof, for instance, because it's just kind of, it's nice to have a stable larynx.
You feel it helps kind of stabilize things.
Yeah.
So it's one that you like to use early in a warm up or later on?
Earlier. I mean, like after the straw and after the v, for instance.
Yeah, so we talked about how each vowel and consonant had a little bit of different properties and could help us with different things. And it's a really good point that Tristan raises of your voice is not going to be the same every day. You know, if you pick up your guitar, it's pretty much going to feel similar every day. But the voice does depend on how much water you've drunk, if you've had enough sleep, whether you're stressed, all this kind of stuff. And vocal health is a massive part of taking care of your voice. So the woof is one that you feel like gets your voice going on a average day. It's a reliable something. So the woo helps it bring it forward into the mouth space, which is one of the main two kind of chambers. This obviously, I usually say that when it comes to vocal technique, you got it's a bit like in maths, you got pi is 3.14, but actually when you learn more, it's an indefinite number. Vocal technique is kind of the same. You could start looking at spectrograms and you could start learning all about what each vowel has in booster frequencies. And if you're now going, I don't know what's going on, you don't have to. That's what training is for, right? And some of you might not even be interested in that side of things. And some of you I think you're more into the voice science than you are. You just want your voice to work. Yeah. You want your voice to do exactly what you want. And, you know, similarly, you have some of the artists on the creative artist route who, they just want to make sure that when they sing that note, it sounds like what it does in their head. And then you have some people who want to find out, yeah, but why? You might be that or you might be that. That doesn't matter. But essentially, it's so much more than that, okay, you just have to do this and then the voice works. The more I teach, the less I believe in talent, the more I believe in the combination of everything you put into it. So, woof is actually a really good choice for people who might want to feel like they need to take a bit of pressure off if they might either be putting in a little bit too much muscle or a little bit too much airflow. So you got the ooh, and then you got the f. And if we're looking at regulating airflow, some consonants stop the airflow and some consonant releases air. So you can probably guess which one f is. So if you go ooh, it releases a lot of air. It's pretty much a vowel. It's a woof, but you could say that it's a W. It's a bit of a funny one. So we put an ooh in between just to make sure the jaw is dropped, because then we get more space in this space. So starting here, we're going to try a double arpeggio and then down on the dominant scale in between. Don't worry if you don't know the theory behind that. It's essentially just this melody. And if I demonstrate that in my range first, We want a woof, 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 woof. Try and keep this going. Woof, 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 woof.
Woof, 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 woof. Woof, 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 woof.
Down a little bit.
Woof, 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 woof. Woof, 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 woof.
So what we're looking for here is we're looking for balance between the lower part of our range and the higher part of our range. And I know that that's something that you're particularly interested in working on, so that the top part of the range sounds a little bit more like the bottom part of the range. So we're going to try and actually add a few more repetitions on top. So we're building even more muscle memory in there to make it feel more natural. So essentially it's called automating the technique. We're going in so it becomes natural eventually. And we're going to do this one. Woof, 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 woof. So 3 extra on the top.
Woof, 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 woof.
Good.
Woof, 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 woof.
Open your mouth.
Woof, 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 woof.
And then we get a little bit more kind of muscle memory build up there. So this time around, we're going to see if we can build. So woof again doesn't sound fully like singing. It sounds a bit airy. So we're going to add a b in there and see if we can maintain that. So we're going to go boof, 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 boof. That's a bit too low for me. You do it.
Boof, 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 boof. Boof, 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 boof.
So it's a little bit more challenging, but it's still going well.
It feels good.
Yeah.
It feels nice.
So see if we can now remove the f.
Okay.
So we might need to do this a few more times before we can challenge it more. But I'll demonstrate in my range this time around. So instead of boof, 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 we're going to go boo, 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 boo. So the challenge being to keep it balanced throughout. So boo, 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 boo.
Bo 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 bo.
That was really good on the way down. Could you see a little thing on the way up that his eyebrows went? So a little secret, the eyebrows aren't actually directly connected to the larynx. So if they're going up, it's usually a good sign for us vocal coaches that the larynx is stretching. That's a little bit of extra kind of thinking up there. Yeah, so instead, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put your hand like this and put your hand down as you go up. It's kind of tricking your brain a bit. I like to trick brains if it's for good cause.
Okay. Bo 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 bo.
So that was a lot more balanced. We didn't get the pull then, but then it was a little bit too light maybe if we were looking for a bit more power. So what I say now is let's open that vowel up. So we're going to go for a bow. So you're going to go for a bow, 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 bow.
Bo 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 bo.
That feel
Nice. Really nice.
good. Let's do more of them then. Maybe do it this way.
Okay. Bo 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 bo.
Can you hear that consonant?
Bo 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 bo.
Good. Can you now add it with a little bit of cry? So cry, like kind of can help the vocal folds together if we sometimes get a little bit into the more airiness of the voice. So we're going to try one last one of that.
Bo 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 bo.
Does that feel
Better. Way
better?
better.
So
I felt like really like more compression.
more compression. So compression is like how much the vocal folds together. So it sounds more like when you're speaking really. So that can help with building more power into the voice. So that is quite related to what you want to work on later on as well. So we've kind of warmed your voice up more. Let's see, what is it that you want to work with your voice? So you were saying about learning a riff in class today.
Yes.
Do you want to say more about that to these guys?
I always find it struggle to riff.
And what do you mean by riff?
Like a
Like an ad lib, like something that is
like
fast.
notes that go down in semitones and things. When it's really quick, I really struggle to get the accuracy. And I have a housemate that's really good at it, and it makes me feel a bit bad. I need to sort of at least be good at it a little bit. That's my goal.
And it's always good to want to improve yourself, but at the same time, you have to remember that everybody's got different strengths. So you might have a housemate who's like fantastic at all the kind of riffing, which is the really fast notes in between loads of different notes, but he or she might not be as strong at singing in the belty quality that I know that you kind of enjoy, you know? So we all have strengths and weaknesses, and it's important to change our weaknesses, but it's also really important that we work on our strengths. So that aside, let's work on that weakness. So do you know what the riff is?
It's black gold. So it's like hold your head as high as you can. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just coordination really when it comes to riffing and the kind of more faster things. It's coordination because you are moving your muscles and your ligaments faster. So what do we normally do when we learn anything else in life? We kind of break it down. You wouldn't learn a full dance by learning it at full tempo with all the steps if it's the first time you're learning a dance move. So with singing, sometimes we forget that if you haven't done it before, that's why it's hard. So we need to condition the muscles and ligaments to be able to do it. So we know now that it's can. So the first time we do it, it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be, it has to be accurate on the note, but it doesn't have to be accurate in regards to style and all that kind of stuff. Because if you got the notes right and there's lack of tension, then actually the style and that kind of stuff is probably one of the easier things to get right. So just give me that on. Can you give me on a really whiny wah 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 wah?
Wah 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 wah.
And you're 100% sure they're the notes you want?
Yeah.
Perfect. So wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Good. That top one is you're coming up towards it. Can you instead go straight onto it? Wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Good. Wah 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 wah.
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 Can.
Can.
Wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Wah wah wah
Wah
wah.
wah 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 wah.
Wah 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 wah.
Can.
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 Good. Can.
Can.
Good. So now, could you hear that it's getting slightly less, as you get faster, it's getting slightly less accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's partly because you're trying to reach for the notes. So trust that, did you hear that it was perfect when you did that? Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
So try one more time on that.
Wah 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 wah.
Ka, 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 ka.
Ka 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 ka.
Great. The only difference now is whether we have the smooth transition between. Okay, so let's try it again. Ka 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 ka.
Ka 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 ka.
Wah 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 ka 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 ka.
Wah 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 ka 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 ka.
Can.
Can.
Now the voice was there. Did you hear that? It's a little bit slower than what you want, but it was all correct. Okay. Good job. One more time. Can. 2, 3, 4.
Can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So it's getting there. So it's just like with anything that you're learning new. When I started playing the piano, I'll be like, you know, it's really hard to do something that needs your body to do it again. So let's do it a couple more times. So 2, 3, 4.
Can.
You're all the right notes.
Can.
Good. And then can.
Can.
Good. Can you do it in the context of the song?
Hold your head as high as you can.
Trust it.
Hold your head as hold your head as high as you can.
That's it. Is that as fast as you want it?
I think it's a little bit faster.
Don't be scared of it.
Hold your head as high as you can.
Good. One more time.
Hold your head as high as you can.
Good. Keep on that ah. That's the one we used that worked really well on your voice. Yeah. So try and stay on there. So you're not changing the vowel, you're just changing the notes. Let's try that.
Hold your head as high as you can.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. And then you just have to practice over and over again. And then you have to, basically the way we learn new things is first, you don't know what you don't know. Like if you listen to yourself a few years back, you just go, oh, didn't realize I did that, right? And then you learn the stuff and you understand the stuff that you don't know. And sometimes that can be really uncomfortable because all of a sudden you're aware, you might have started doing the riff can, and you're kind of just approximating it. And then eventually you realize that no, I need to make this accurate, and slowing it down, finding out exactly what the notes are, is the best way of doing that because you're helping create this muscle memory, and the more time you do it, the more natural it feels, and then essentially now you have it in your bank. You can have this little bank of, and you might use it in a different song. You might go, okay, I've got this other song, I'll use can, because I know my voice can do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Right, so in short, what we've been doing over the last kind of best part of half an hour is preparing our voice to sing. So we did some semi-occluded exercises, which is the balancing out of the airflow with the vocal fold wave. And then we did some more things, including the articulators and everything, or diction if you want. Obviously, the thing with warm-ups, just as it is with warm-ups if we're going to do exercise or dance, is that you shape the actual exercises to fit what it is that you're going into doing. So with Jana, we were doing the riff. So it was basically going into accuracy of pitching, whilst with Tristan we're working on the bridge control between the lower bit of the voice, some of you will know as chest voice or thick fold, and then going into the higher part of the voice and maintaining tone without tension. So obviously I know their voices a little bit better than you do, so any questions about particular things and what it is that you're working on, we can talk about in the Q&A. But it's always great after a warm-up to then go into application of technique, because you could be the best person at doing exercises, but again, that's not really singing. So we have to do some application of technique, and you know, if we're gonna, I know both of these guys from choir as well, so if I was going into doing a choir session, I might go with a round, which will also warm up our ear, where we're singing something in harmony. So we're gonna do a quick round at the end of it, and that helps us kind of shape into, so we're gonna use the articulators, but also our voices should be a bit more warm by now. And we do the Bella Mama, do you remember that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so essentially we'll do it a couple of times just together, and you can learn it as well. And this one can actually be in 8 parts, so you could start at loads of different places, but we're just going to do it in 3 parts because we're only 3 people. So it's quite a simple one. It goes Bella Mama, yeah. And it's called Mom, but actually in some languages it could be beautiful mom, so you can decide. Bella Mama, yeah. It's the second one. So the first one was Bella Mama, yeah. Bella Mama, yeah. Bella mama, bella mama, bella mama, bella mama. And then it ends the same way as it started, with a bella mama, yeah. So we do the whole thing in the right cell. It's a good key for both of you? Okay, it works? We'll try it. If not, we'll raise it a bit. That's what I talked about earlier, with voices being of different. 2, 3, 4. Bella mama, yeah. Bella mama, yeah. Bella mama, bella mama, bella mama, bella mama, bella mama, bella mama, yeah. And that's the whole thing. And a round, or a canon if you want, means that we're all going to come in at different places. And I said this one could be in 8 different parts, because it's kind of got a call and response. So if you could start it, and you come in with a response, and then I'll come in later. So it'll be like, bella mama, bella mama, bella mama.
Okay.
Is it the right key for you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Maybe, yeah. Okay.
So you can hear that it sounds lower.
And it feels quite low, but it's okay.
We're singing the same pitch, but it sounds lower.
Yeah.
I think we could probably, if we go here, bella mama, because now we're more warm, we can lift it a bit. So we go bella mama, bella mama. Which then for us, which means that we're coming up for the female voice up towards kind of our passaggio bridge. We might want to make sure that we don't force it and just allow it. So we're expecting it, not directing it. That means that we're following our natural instincts, which we built up through loads and loads of training. That's how natural instincts happen. So bella mama, 2, 3, 4. Bella mama, yeah.
Bella mama, yeah.
Bella mama, yeah.
Bella mama, yeah.
Bella mama,
Bella mama, yeah.
Bella mama, Bella mama,
Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, yeah.
Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama,
Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, Bella mama, yeah.
That was a natural good ending there. Well done, guys. Yeah, so that can be a bit of a fun. You could learn it and join the choir if you want as well. But yeah, let's hear some questions for you. So the main reason for warming up is that we're just preparing the voice. And then there's exercising, and that is to change things in our voices that either is harmful for us or just doesn't sound like we want it to do in here or in here. So that's essentially what warm-ups and exercises are all about. So taking care of our voice so we don't have to cancel gigs, and that we can do exactly what it is that we want and make the sounds that we want to do. Thank you so much, guys. And I think they're going to be part of the Q&A as well. So any questions that you have, just send them in. Thank you very much. Hi. So we're going to take some questions now. There's still time for you to ask your questions if you want to put it in the comment section. The first question is, which genre of music is the most taxing for a singer? And maybe suggesting that potentially saying, I hear a lot of metal singers and think, how can they do that? So I wouldn't say any genre necessarily is more taxing than others as a whole, because it depends on the techniques used within that genre. But with things that are more athletic singing, whether it is belting in a power ballad or belting in a kind of metal genre, a lot of metal singers have amazing technique and sing in a balanced way. Balanced, talking about that thing with the power source interaction or the airflow with the vocal folds. However, the more you sing in one way, for a lot of time. So if you sing in one coordination, in the same way as if you do one coordination for a long period of time, like it's not very tiring to hold your hands out like this for a couple of seconds. But if I ask you to do this throughout an entire song, for instance, then your muscles will be tired, and having a little bit of a break means your muscles don't build up that lactose acid that is within the muscles. And it's exactly the same really with singing in one coordination all the time. You'll probably be more tired, and you can build up stamina and strength, but not of the actual vocal folds. So if you are singing wrongly in any genre, or singing with too much muscle or too much air, you're in an imbalanced place, then that's going to be more taxing for you in general. If you're talking about the distortion side of metal, when I say distortion, I mean, when you're getting kind of a different type of noise on top of. That's my scary voice. I'm not going to do more of that right now. There might be different things in the vocal tract that vibrate. So the vocal fold itself will send a signal, a vibration that is the pitch that we then will resonate in that vocal tract and boost all these overtones. Fantastic. Then you might have another thing rattling, and that could be different things. There's loads of workshops and videos on distortion as well, and we do actually cover extreme singing as part of the vocal courses here at ACM as well. And if the distortion is created on the vocal fold level, that can be quite scary. But if it is created in a different part of the vocal tract, it may not mean that it's very dangerous. So I can't actually answer from just the question in more detail, because obviously it depends how you create it. So there's a few more questions. So next one is, how do you improve or widen your vocal range? So by learning how to use those muscles, and there are a few different muscles. If I'm going to simplify, you have a kind of set of muscles that help bring the vocal folds together, and in some ways you might call that your chest voice muscles, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. Then those muscles can only really take you up to a certain point, and then we have to start stretching out the vocal folds, and there's these muscles called the cricothyroid muscles that are quite instrumental in that, and it helps basically make the vocal folds tighter, which means they can then vibrate at a higher speed and then create a higher pitch. So by learning how to stretch these vocal folds more and learning how to allow for what is the vocal acoustics, we might do a different workshop on that because that is a little bit more complicated, they will help or hinder going up to your higher range. So it's basically training your technique. I have a neck injury which causes a lot of tension around my throat. What is the best way to get rid of this tension? That is a great question. And unfortunately, with the voice, as I mentioned in the workshop earlier, it's not like you can just pick up another instrument if you're having a bit of a rough day. And the neck is, it's so close. So it will definitely cause some tension in the actual larynx as well. So what I would suggest is get it seen if it is something that is actually a medical problem. Make sure you get medical help for that, or you can get massage, like vocal laryngeal massages, if it's so much that is actually really hindering you. There's loads of great stretches you could do. Depending on which neck muscles it is, you could potentially try and tilt there, and then put the other hand out maybe as a weight like this, and then over your shoulder. And here you might want to do a big face, like super attractive. And then on the other side, tilt. This is one of my favorites. So you could do something like this. Again, big face. I'll do it a lot longer. You could, making sure that the shoulders are low, you can try and get as much space between your body and your hands. Remembering that stretches are dynamic, they're actually more rather than kind of just going there, because that's a bit like a safety belt. If you just stretch it a bit too fast, you might actually cause more injury. And then maybe just leaving it there as a weight. There's loads of stretches like that will help, but nothing beats a good massage. So hopefully that helps. keep losing my voice. What's the best way to recover? Again, it's a little bit hard without hearing the voice and without seeing. But if you keep on losing your voice without knowing why you're losing it, I would definitely go and see either a vocal coach, or if you think it's medical, go and see a doctor, get a referral to an ENT, which is your ear, nose and throat doctor, and they might be able to put a camera down to see your vocal folds and see what's going on there, if it is because of singing. So if you lose your voice after singing, that is not a good sign. It doesn't mean that it necessarily is a pathology, which is what we call like if something is an injury or something, but it's worth checking out because it isn't common to lose your voice. But it could also be that it's allergies, or it could be, if you have a tendency to do things like a lot, it could, for instance, be things like acid reflux, which is could be something to do with food and the food you're eating, and drinking too much coffee or alcohol. There's loads of things it can be, and the British Voice Association has a really great resource on what's going on in your voice. You can kind of have a look at their website and see if any of the symptoms are more typical. Then you can come to your singing lesson or your doctor's appointment with a little bit more of a educated query. How can you help transition between my chest and falsetto range? That again depends a little bit on what your technique currently is. So it's quite common to, if you are either having a really strong head voice or chest voice, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in a second, you might have one set of muscles that's stronger than the others. So you want to train the other set of muscles to make it more balanced. But it could also be that you're using vowels that makes it harder to transition because of acoustic reasons. So you might want to try and see if you can get up through a straw. And if you have a tendency to have a really strong voice down at the bottom and then a very light voice on top, then try and start from the top and go down. And if it's the other way around, where you feel like you got a lot of power up high but maybe not so much at the bottom, then try and start at the bottom and go up and see if you can make those two a little bit more balanced. That is one way. But those semi-occluded exercises, semi-occluded means partially closed. So that's always prepared with a bit of magical wand, which is the straw. Or you could do the anything that has resistance between your vocal folds and the world, if you want. That will help encourage this balance down at vocal fold level. So it's just keep training your technique, basically. How can I train to sing opera if I'm a pop singer? Okay, I do talk a lot in analogies because I'm a songwriter, I do like pictures in the way I speak. And I think with pop singing, or pop or rock or general, all of those genres, and opera, it's a little bit like learning to do ballet and learning to do street dance. There's the same muscles, but it's a really different coordination. So there's a lot of the actual ground part of opera singing that is different to pop and rock and folk singing, and you'll have to learn those coordinations, and you have to practice and build muscle memory and automate that technique to sing opera. So you would go to somebody who's an opera teacher. I mean, obviously with any singing, whether it's pop, rock or opera, you can learn a lot by emulating people who are very good at what they do, and maybe hear what kind of vowels they do. They might be singing with a slightly lower larynx as well. So those things are really useful to kind of have a play around with opera singing. But with anything, if you want to get it to the super high level, you want to get a good vocal coach. How do you train to dance and sing at the same time? Well, the best way of training how to dance and sing at the same time is to dance and sing at the same time. So I believe Beyoncé does her vocal training on the treadmill, so that she gets that stamina. Because obviously, especially if your cardiovascular that was a hard word, cardiovascular fitness is a little bit lower, you might get out of breath quite quickly. Or as with myself, I'm asthmatic, so some days, like today, is really rainy and damp, and you might hear that I'm breathing a little bit heavier than what I might do, for instance, in the workshop we recorded a little bit earlier. Then I will have to make sure that I do my warm-up so that I have balanced out my airflow. And that's the same thing with movement. Get your fitness up so that you can do it, and make sure that your vocal technique can handle what it is that you want to do, basically. And that's just training. What has been my biggest setback as a performer singer? I think I will answer this one in a vocal health point of view, since we have a vocal health angle with this workshop. And I did actually sing through a few illnesses in a row. I had a tour a few years back, and I really wanted to do the tour. It was with a touring band from the States, and I was super excited to be part of it. And I was ill, and I had asthma attack, and I sang through it. And I basically ended up having to do recovery afterwards. I didn't have anything. I mean, luckily, I was very lucky, because it potentially wouldn't have been as lucky if I hadn't done all the training before. So luck is relative there. But I had to stop singing for a bit and retrain my voice to get back to the fitness I was before. And that was very, very traumatic, and it made me appreciate my voice so much more afterwards, and it's made me even more of a voice geek when it comes to taking care of the voice. What's been my biggest achievement as a performer singer? Oh, that's kind of a hard one to answer, because creating my own music and sharing that with the world is definitely something that I appreciate a lot. I love doing the work, the songs that I have in my heart and in my head, and be able to share that through lyrics and voice and harmonies with other people, and being able to kind of perform that at festivals. It's a bit of a general one. I think that's a something that is really close to my heart, but I also love helping the next generation of singers to find their voice, and I say that both metaphorically, of finding the actual way of things you want to say, and also the actual physical building of the voice that you want to have. So I'm not going to do a more specific. Feel free to read my biography for things that I might be proud of, but being able to make music and sing for a living is an achievement I'm very fortunate to have. Do vocal zones really work? Other brand names available. Lozenges in general, if they don't numb your throat, can help create saliva, which is a good thing. I haven't done or read enough research on vocal zones to be able to give a definite answer on that. I know a lot of singers who swear by them, and they can help clarity in the voice in that way. But I wouldn't be. I say, like a lot of the scientists, I am not a specialist on that field, so I would probably say that if it works for you, it works. Would I recommend in-ears? Some singers says it's changed their performance, others dislike. Again, it depends what you prefer. I actually don't like in-ears myself, because I get really caught up in what I sound like, and I can't perform in the same natural way. So I actually prefer hearing a little bit more of the acoustic sound around me. However, if you're doing arena shows, then having that control of exactly what you want to hear. A couple of my band members swears by it, and a lot of singers I work with said it's changed their life as well. So again, we have a couple of sets of in ears that you can try out in the technical office. If you come to ACM, you can try them out for yourself and see what you think, and let us know, because it's always interesting to hear what people think about things like that. What's my background? Where did I study? So I'm Norwegian. I'm Scouse-Norwegian, I say. I've lived in Liverpool for a very long time, which is, if you were wondering where this weird accent is from, it's from all over the place. And I did sports science back in college, and that has had a massive effect on where I've gone. I've had singing lessons and sung really. Well, I had singing lessons from kind of teenage years, and I've played violin and sung and played in various bands and orchestras and choirs, sung in choirs for as long as I can remember. I think my first gig was at 5. So my background is doing music always. And I then did what we call folkehøyskole in Norway, which is a kind of almost like a gap year, but you do training, quite intense training where you live at the school. And I did music and theatre. And when I was there, a English university called LIPA in Liverpool came and held auditions at my school, and I ended up doing an audition and kind of a little bit on the whim, and ended up in Liverpool, and that's 20 years ago now in September. And in between then I did diploma in popular music and sound technology, and I did songwriting with vocals as a major, and then I ended up doing sessions both with Still and SLS and other workshops, and I am quite thirsty at knowledge, and I like to find out loads of different things, and ended up doing a master's, and suddenly I ended up in ACM after meeting some colleagues over in LA at the Vocalize You Artist Intensive. So I'm a vocalogy in practice authorized instructor and singing teacher trainer. I also work with bass training, so that's a very short version of many years of voice geeking. Right, this is the last question. Who inspires me as an artist? Everything inspires me as an artist, but I love Nina Simone, I love Jeff Buckley. I was a big kind of Pearl Jam fan in my youth, a bit of a grunge girl, but I also really enjoyed like acoustic music, Damien Rice, Joni Mitchell. I love good lyrics, and I think I've always been more of a fan of songs rather than bands and artists. But you know, I love somebody who can really put things across. I really admire people for different things. Like I was mentioning, Beyonce's way of riffing, I think is really tasteful, and I do enjoy a good nerve and energy and drama to singing. And then I've got compulsory harmony disorder, so I love a good harmony, and any music that has loads of harmony I adore as well. So I hope you've had something out from this workshop. So I've tried to not be too technical, but at the same time make sure that everything has got a bit of a technique at the bottom of it. If you have any more questions, then I can always answer them later. And hopefully you have some new things to try out or explore in your vocal exploration in the future. Thank you very much for watching.